Harald Fairhair was born around 850 AD into a small tribe in the western part of Norway. From a very young age, he was a child with a deep desire to become a warrior. His father, Ingvar, was known as a powerful and feared warrior in his time, but this was not enough for Harald. He did not only wish to follow in his father's footsteps, he also wanted to carve his own name into history. The training he began at a young age not only prepared him for battle, but also gave him the skills needed to become a leader. Ingvar, his father, had fought in countless battles throughout his life. However, Harald's thoughts and goals were different. He did not want to be just a warrior. His ambition was to unite all the lands of Norway and be remembered as the greatest Viking leader in history. As a young man, Harald traveled to the mountain peaks and began training in hunting and combat. These lessons shaped him not only as a warrior, but also as a versatile leader. Harald participated in many skirmishes, honing his battle skills. He grew up among the leaders of various regions in Norway and gradually began to attract them with his strength. But his ultimate goal was to unite various tribes and become the most powerful ruler in Norway. Even as a young man, Harald didn't think of simply defending his own tribe. He dreamed of ruling every corner of Norway. Harald's first battle was no easy feat. In this battle, as a result of the training he had received from his father, he showcased his self-confidence and combat abilities. This was the first step on his path to becoming one of Norway's strongest tribal leaders. At the start of the battle, he was met with skepticism from surrounding tribes, but after his victory, Harald's name quickly spread across the land. His victories strengthened him not only on the battlefield, but also in the political sphere. Through the battle experience he gained at a young age, Harald gained influence not only within his own tribe, but also among neighboring tribes. His impressive victories in battle were met with great respect from other leaders around him. He never thought of being merely a warrior for his own tribe. Harald's ambitions were much greater, to become a strong leader who would unite all of Scandinavia. One day, Harald felt that he was already the greatest warrior in Norway and set out to face a formidable enemy for the first time. He did not see himself just as a leader of one tribe, but envisioned himself as the most powerful ruler of Scandinavia. This battle marked a new chapter in Harald's life. With each victory, his name grew more famous, and those around him began to see him as a future great leader. In Harald's life, struggles and battles were just the beginning. He proved himself not only as a warrior, but also as a strategist, leader, and ruler. His rise began to change the future of both Norway and Scandinavia. The experiences he gained in these early years were preparing him for the great battles and challenges ahead. The experiences Harald gained in his youth showed up not only in his battles, but also in politics and diplomacy. His struggles during these early years laid the foundation for the unification of Norway and took him several steps closer to becoming one of the greatest Viking leaders of his time.
Harald Fairhair, with the experience gained from several battles, was now closer to achieving his goal. He did not just think of becoming the leader of one tribe. His aim was much greater: to unite all the regions of Norway, turn it into a powerful monarchy, and present himself as the greatest leader of all Scandinavia. With this goal in mind, Harald decided to face his first great battle. Every battle would bring him closer to his future goals and would cause the surrounding peoples to fear him. For a long time, Harald fought against independent rulers and tribal leaders in various regions of Norway, but he had yet to achieve the full unity of Scandinavia. However, during this time, some of the greatest leaders and warriors began to place greater obstacles in Harald's path. One of these obstacles was Jarl Olaf, located in the northern part of the country. Olaf was known as one of the strongest tribal leaders in Scandinavia, and everyone saw him as Harald's biggest rival. Jarl Olaf, with his warriors, tried to prevent Harald from uniting the northern part of Norway. However, Harald, with his determination and battle experience, confronted Olaf's army. The first major battle began near the city of Tromsø in the north. This battle would not only end in a victory, but it would also be a chance for Harald to demonstrate his leadership abilities and superiority in combat. At the beginning of the battle, Olaf's army was numerically superior, but Harald's strategic thinking and the preparation of his warriors gave him a significant advantage. Before the battle began, Harald carefully analyzed the terrain where the battle would take place. He identified the weak points in Olaf's army and built his battle plan around those points. The warriors in Harald's army were not only physically strong, but also well prepared with rich combat experience. Each warrior knew their weapons and strategies perfectly, which gave them a significant edge at the beginning of the battle. When the battle began, Harald's army charged forward at great speed. Olaf's army could not withstand this unexpected assault by Harald's warriors. Due to Harald's superior tactical maneuvers and swift attacks, Olaf's army was crushed. Jarl Olaf himself was severely wounded in the battle and was later captured as a prisoner. This victory became one of Harald's greatest achievements and ensured his recognition throughout Scandinavia. At the end of this battle, Harald brought many local tribes and rulers from the north to his side. Olaf's defeat helped to eliminate the major difficulties in the northern regions of Norway. Harald's name became even more famous, and he was now recognized not just in various parts of Norway, but throughout all of Scandinavia as a leader. However, this victory was just the beginning. Harald still faced greater challenges ahead. He had to unite not just the north of Norway, but all of Scandinavia. And to achieve this, he would have to fight more battles and face more struggles. With his victory over Jarl Olaf, Harald aimed not just to unite one region, but the entire Scandinavia. This would be a major step not only for the future of Norway, but also for the development of Viking culture. Harald's first major battle also provided him an opportunity to analyze his leadership skills and strategic thinking. He showed that he was not just skilled in battle, but also a master of politics and governance. However, this battle was just the beginning, and as Ragnar's heir, Harald would face even more difficult trials ahead, but he would never think of retreating.
Harald Fairhair, after several battles and victories, was now getting closer to becoming the first king of Norway. Every victory he gained in battle not only made him a stronger leader, but also created favorable conditions for uniting the surrounding tribes. However, true power and the complete unification of Norway still presented many obstacles. The other great leaders of Scandinavia and local rulers saw Harald's rise as a threat to their own power. But Harald was a leader who would never retreat and would never fear fighting. Harald's greatest battle was the next step on the path to unifying Norway. Many local rulers in Scandinavia were reluctant to recognize his authority. They feared that Harald could unite all of Scandinavia and create a great empire. This situation would affect not only the future of Norway, but also the future of all of Scandinavia. Strategic thinking in battles. Harald's success in battle cannot be explained solely by his physical strength and combat skills. In fact, his greatest advantage was his exceptional strategic thinking and the innovative tactics he created on the battlefield. He carefully planned every battle before starting. Harald's movements were always calculated, and his plans were built on identifying the weaknesses of the enemy. One of the factors that Harald paid the most attention to was the mobility of the battlefield and ensuring the advantage of his army. His army was not only strong in battle, but also fast and agile when traveling. Harald also used the weaknesses and internal conflicts of the surrounding countries to his advantage. In the battle strategies of the time, many kings and leaders focused only on having a strong army. But Harald had mastered finding the enemy's weak points and exploiting those gaps. The rise to the throne and internal struggles. Harald's rise to the throne was not only a result of his battles, but also a reflection of the trust the people had in him. While aiming to unify all of Scandinavia, he first had to resolve the internal conflicts within Norway. Other leaders in Norway were reluctant to accept his sole rule and saw themselves as independent rulers. However, Harald's leadership abilities and powerful army helped him defeat these leaders and bring them together under his rule. After Harald ascended to the throne, he began to defeat the independent rulers within the country one by one. Each battle further demonstrated his and his army's strategic and combat prowess. These battles required not only physical strength, but also political and diplomatic thinking. After each victory, Harald managed to bring his defeated enemies into his ranks, proving how strong he was as both a warrior and a strategist. Harald's path to empire building. Harald's greatest goal was not only the unification of Norway, but also the creation of the strongest empire in Scandinavia. He made a name for himself not only as a warrior, but also as a political strategist. His strength was measured not just by the victories he achieved in battle, but also by his mastery in warfare and strategic thinking. Harald also aimed to present himself as a unifying leader. He tried to unite the surrounding peoples and kingdoms not only through battle, but also through political diplomacy and progressive governance. With each new battle, Harald grew stronger and more influential. He continued to make progress towards creating the largest empire in Scandinavia, not only through his victories, but also with his experience in politics and economics. However, Harald still faced many challenges and battles ahead. He was confronted not only with internal struggles in uniting Scandinavia, but also with external threats. But Harald, never thinking of retreating, continued his struggle to reach his ultimate goal.
Harald Fairhair, after uniting Norway, had a greater ambition: to unite all of Scandinavia and become the strongest leader of the entire region. This meant not only taking control within the borders of Norway, but also seizing the power of all Scandinavia. Harald faced significant obstacles, but he never considered retreating. His goal was to continue as the greatest warrior and ruler of Scandinavia. His next battle would determine the future of both Norway and the whole of Scandinavia. Local tribes and external threats. Harald's unification of Norway required him to start fighting against other Scandinavian countries and kingdoms. Initially, tribal leaders from the western parts of Sweden opposed him. They didn't want to accept Harald's power and fought to maintain their independence. As he encountered these difficulties, Harald didn't only rely on military power, but also used political diplomacy and strategic alliances to win these tribes over. Harald had to face Denmark as well, located at the other end of his territory. Denmark was one of the strongest powers in Scandinavia, and they were unwilling to accept Harald's claims. However, through battles and struggles, Harald infiltrated some Danish territories and defeated the once mighty Danish rulers, thus expanding his own lands. All these struggles further strengthened Harald's leadership and combat abilities. His political efforts to unite the tribes made many of the surrounding peoples recognize him as their ruler. This not only meant territorial expansion, but also brought political and social stability to Scandinavia. Along with his victories on the battlefield, Harald demonstrated his ability as a unifying leader to the peoples around him. Internal struggles and political life. Harald's reign wasn't limited to foreign battles. He also had to face internal struggles within his own country. Local tribal leaders in various parts of Norway, especially those who wanted to be his successors, opposed his authority. Many leaders refused to recognize Harald's monarchy and attempted to rule independently in their own territories across Norway. Despite this, Harald's strategic thinking and leadership abilities allowed him to overcome these challenges. He defeated his surrounding enemies not only with battle, but also by taking strong political and diplomatic actions. After each victory, Harald worked to bring the defeated leaders into his ranks and integrate their territories into his monarchy.
He also worked to build connections between different social and economic classes within Norway, trying to become popular among the people. He was recognized as a leader who not only won battles, but also built close relationships with his people. This earned him not only power and influence, but also the love and trust of the peoples around him. Expansion of Harald's empire. During Harald's reign, Scandinavia reached its peak of strength and power. His goal was not only to expand Norway's borders, but also to unite all of Scandinavia under one rule. Every battle he fought was a significant victory in the eyes of his warriors and military commanders. Harald's army, with its tactical superiority, caught the attention of not only Scandinavia, but also all of Europe. He also established broad diplomatic connections with his allies and foreign enemies. These relationships further strengthened his power and created an essential foundation for shaping Scandinavia's future empire. Harald went down in history as a highly skilled leader both in battle and politics. The empire he created was the greatest and most powerful force in Scandinavia. After the battles and victories, Harald's fought throughout his life were not only about uniting Norway, he also wanted to create an empire in his own name. Each battle was not just about conquering lands, but also about expanding his influence and power. Harald's greatest victories resulted in Norway's borders expanding and his recognition in other parts of Scandinavia. All these victories and struggles made Harald one of the greatest leaders of Scandinavia. His battles and struggles became legendary, and his legacy became a source of great inspiration and lessons for future generations.
Harald Fairhair's victories in battles and his struggle to unite the various regions of Scandinavia not only had a great impact in his time, but also left a significant legacy for future generations. He made history with his efforts to unite Norway and transform it into a powerful empire. However, Harald's life was not just about battles. It was also tied to his political, economic, and social governance skills. His legacy continued not just through victories in battles, but also through the state structure he built. Legacy after Harald's death. After Harald's death, his son, Erik Bloodaxe, and other heirs continued the empire he had built. However, one of the greatest challenges Harald's successors faced after his death was preserving his legacy. Many other tribes and rulers in Scandinavia had difficulty accepting Harald's monarchy. As a result, Erik Bloodaxe and Harald's other sons fought many battles to secure their own rule. Each battle served to protect the power of the state that Harald had built. Additionally, the structure of the state Harald established defined the future governance systems of Scandinavia. During his time, the boundaries and relations between regions were further strengthened. This became a great example of how Viking rulers and leaders would govern in the future. Harald went down in history not just as a warrior and leader, but also as a great state builder. The remaining strength and social impact of Norway. Harald's reign marked the pinnacle of Norway's power. During his rule, social and economic development began, and relations with surrounding people strengthened. During Harald's time, major trade routes were opened in Scandinavia, and trade and cooperation between people began to grow. This strengthened Norway's economy and made it a more recognized country across Europe. Furthermore, Harald proved himself as an excellent leader in diplomacy by establishing permanent relations with other rulers of Scandinavia. He fought internal wars while also strengthening his country's position in foreign matters. This gained him not only influence within his territories, but also across all of Scandinavia. Legacy of Viking culture. Harald's greatest legacy was not only the increase in his political and military power, but also the development of Viking culture and ideals. The Vikings in his time were not only recognized as warriors, but also spread their beliefs, culture, and way of life throughout the world. Harald's time was the peak of this culture. By uniting Scandinavia, he laid the foundation for Viking culture, and its influence spread to future generations and all of Europe. One of the Vikings' greatest characteristics was their desire to travel and conquer new lands. Harald's time was a significant period for the Vikings, not only in conquering Scandinavia, but also other peoples. During his reign, the Vikings began to build a strong state not only in battles, but also in trade and diplomacy. Harald left this legacy not only for his time, but also for future generations. The eternal legacy of Harald's spirit. Harald Fairhair was not only recorded in history as a king and warrior, but also as a leader and a great state builder. He became a legendary figure in history and left a lasting mark not only on Scandinavia, but on all of Europe. Harald's spirit was carried on by his children and successors, and the empire he created unified Scandinavia into a great world power. In the end, Harald's name lived on not just on the battlefields, but also in the memory of the people and as a representative of Viking culture. His legacy extended beyond Norway's borders, securing his place as one of the greatest leaders in Viking history. The power and order during Harald's time had the greatest influence in spreading Viking culture to the world. The legacy left for future generations. Harald Fairhair, as the first great monarch of Norway and Scandinavia, left a great legacy for future generations. During his time, the Vikings were both warriors and builders of a great state. The stories and legends of his life continue to live on to this day, both in Scandinavia and worldwide. As one of the greatest leaders of his time, Harald passed on his legacy, spirit of struggle, and leadership to the entire Viking people.